Accounts payable might not sound glamorous until you're running 50 restaurant locations and drowning in invoices. In this episode, I sit down with Bradley Bloch, the CEO and founder of Factura.ai, the only AP automation platform purpose built for multi unit, multi entity restaurant operators. Now, Bradley brings a rare blend of Wall Street finance. Think 4 billion in M&A deals at Scotiabank, at private equity at Roynet, and deep operational empathy for the franchisee world. He shares how he spotted a crippling inefficiency hiding in plain sight across thousands of restaurant back offices and why AI is the only tool powerful enough to fix it at scale. If you run multi location operations, manage a finance team, or just want to understand how AI is quietly transforming the unsexy but essential parts of business, now this one's for you. Hey guys, welcome back to the AIP podcast, where we get inside the minds of builders, founders, and operators who are putting AI to work on real business problems. Now, I'm your host, Ann Cheng, on behalf of the AI Partnerships Corp, and today we're talking about one of the most universally hated processes in any multi-location business: accounts payable. Stacks of invoices, manual data entry, missed discounts, approval bottlenecks. It's the stuff that keeps finance teams up at night. Now, my guest today spotted this problem through a very unusual lens. Now, Bradley Bloch spent years doing billion-dollar M&A deals at Scotiabank and investing in mid-market companies through private equity before he finally pivoted to build Factura.ai, an AI-powered AP automation platform designed specifically for multi-unit restaurant operators. We're talking franchisees running McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King, Wendy's, Domino's, the people who keep the world fed. Bradley, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You've done M&A at Scotiabank, private equity at Roynet, and then you end up building software for restaurant invoices. Walk me through that career arc. What did you see that others missed?
I think in my heart, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to own my own business, and I think when you work for someone else, it's the opportunity to learn and pick up skills that you might not have. And so working for the bank, I was able to learn how the bank runs. I was also able to learn how businesses run and really understand what makes a good business and what makes a bad business. So I think that was really the foundation for me as to, all right, I have now the skills to really build a business and operate a business and understand how to make it profitably. As far as like getting into the AP business, I think I always say that we were like a river. We're going with the flow as to where the world and the market is kind of taking us. When I left the corporate world, we wanted to do a different product. I wanted to build a cash flow forecasting business, and we tried that and started speaking to customers and trying to figure out a business model and figure out all the pieces that you need to do to start a business. And it just didn't work exactly how I thought it was going to work at the outset. And we ended up building a different product altogether in the restaurant world that was more around reporting. And, we were able to help some of our customers around that. And, but, we kept hearing from a few of our customers a problem around AP, and we said, you know what, let's go help solve that problem. And so, life is never linear. It just zigzags. I always say like a river. If you actually look at like a river from, the top, there's never a straight river. And so, to answer your question about the arc from a career to where we are, is I don't think I ever envisioned that this is where we would be, but it's kind of where the market and where really the problems are. And so we ended up finding a problem that I, th- I thought we could solve.
It's amazing. Most people think that AP automation is just scanning PDFs and pushing data around. What does Factorial actually do that generic accounting software can't? And why does multi unit change everything?
Yeah. So if you think about how these multi-location businesses are actually structured from an accounting perspective, it's actually different than just a normal business. Each location has their own P&L. And so you have 100 locations, you literally have 100 P&Ls within your accounting books. Versus you have one business, you have maybe different divisions, different things, but it's all one P&L. So structurally, it's different. And depending on the nuances of how you've structured your accounting, maybe it's standardized GLs, maybe it's not standardized GLs, maybe it's standardized vendor lists, maybe it's not standardized vendor lists. Every business has it set up differently, but there's really no AP solution that really mimicked how your accounting was set up. So that's bright light number one. Number two is you're 100% right. Everyone focuses on from an AP solution on let's solve manual data entry, getting the data extraction. But if you actually take a step, before that is, well, how do you get invoices into a system? When you're, one location, that's no problem. You got one email address, send it in. It's going to pick up the one location. It's going to go get coded, etc. But when you have 100 locations, how do you know where the invoice belongs to? Because at the end of the day, it has to go to a very specific P&L, different one than store number 33. And so on the ingestion of invoices, you have to solve for that as well. So that's another nuance to how Factura handles just accepting invoices and figuring out and routing it to the right spot based on information off of an invoice. Then obviously we do the coding like other solutions. I think we do it a little bit better in some scenarios, getting line items, doing things like that. And hold on. And sorry, to interrupt my daughter. But then you think about the workflow, and on the workflow itself is nuanced with there's locations that need invoices to go to. There are different thresholds, different people that are involved. Sometimes it's just the general manager. Sometimes it's district manager. Sometimes it's VPs. Sometimes there's different departments within a restaurant. So you've got what I always call is like you've got a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of chaos. How do you simplify the chaos? And that's really what Factora does is adjusts the invoice, does all the work for you to know that this invoice belongs to this location, does the data extraction the way you want it, routes it to the right approver, pushes it off to your ERP or accounting system, and you ultimately pay your vendor. And so we've taken the pieces where most other AP solutions that are horizontal kind of skip because it's not their customer base, where we really focus on and solve for those challenges.
That's very useful. Now, AI and finance is a combination that, as you might imagine, most CFOs will get a little bit nervous about it, particularly because of accuracy, auditability, and compliance. So, how do you earn trust in a space where a single misposted invoice can cause real damage?
So I think you hit the nail on the head. Auditability is like call it step one. If you throw, you run into an LLM model, you say do this, you don't know what the output is going to be. It's going to give you different answers all the time potentially, and so you can't. There's a trust factor, but is why does it choose this? Why did it choose that? And sometimes you can't answer it. In our case, we can answer. We know how we've designed the system. We have the audit trail of what everything is doing, and so we know why the system picked this output. Maybe not the right output, but it picked it, and we know and we understand it. And so then we can adjust or fix it and say, what, the model said choose one, but it needs to choose two. We can adjust the model so that it chooses two, and so there's a traceability to understand what's going on. Number one. Number two, you're 100% right. It's just math, right? It's just numbers, and it's just binary. It's either you got it right or you got it wrong. And so we make it very visible to everyone as this is what we extracted. It's not a black box. It's not like nobody sees what's going on. Is you can see the information we extracted. You don't like it, we can fix it. But if you like it, you then push it off to the next level. And so there's call it you know there's a process in the way. Nothing is blind. And because of that, we're able to, help our customers ensure that the data is accurate. There is an audit trail of everything so that, someone questions what we've done, we can trace it back as to this is what happened. It was a user error, it was a factual error, it was something else, and ensure that, the data that's going into the accounting system is correct.
That's great. Um, in our pre-show conversation, you talked about scaling yourself, and you come from a world of $4 billion acquisition deals. Does that financial rigor change how you built Factura's business model, and how do you pitch ROI to operators while watching every penny?
So, yeah, as far as the scaling comment, that was my initial idea of how I want to build a business that was scaling kind of what I was doing, working in private equity and M&A, around the cash flow forecasting. But I think it's relevant to what we do today. Is most of our customers are in scale mode. They're not static, and what that means is they're adding locations, and they're adding sometimes one a year. Sometimes some groups are adding 30 a year. They're doubling their count. And the goal is, how do you give them their people a tool to make them more productive so they don't have to continuously hire up? It's keep your same operations the way that it is, and allow you to seamlessly scale as you grow and get bigger. And so that's really what Factura really allows you to do. At the heart of it is, you know it allows your team to be, you know 70-80% more productive doing the same tasks as they were doing before, because a lot of the stuff is off their plate. And I'll give you a, kind of a case study from one of our first customers. Is, two AP staff, 33 restaurants, manually doing the approval process, manually doing data entry, a lot of even manual data storage. They're now at 70, I think 72 locations, so more than doubled their location count. Same two individuals. And what happens is that it's, um, the task of managing the workflow, that's off their plate. Storing the documents, that's off their plate. The data entry, that's off their plate. And so they literally, with the same people, have, capacity to grow even further. So you talk about scaling, it's all about scale. Is how do you scale and grow a business while maintaining your fixed costs, at a certain level. And that's just one case study of they were able to do that. And we do that for all of our customers. And most of our customers are in scaling mode. Once you add, like, you have 20 restaurants or 20 of whatever business that you are, 20 locations, you're typically, your goal, I'm not saying always, but typically your goal is to get bigger.
That's absolutely right. One for the road before we end this podcast. What does the next 18 months look like for AP automation in the restaurant industry? And really, is there a version of Factura.ai that goes beyond restaurants?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, I think first and foremost, we want to ensure and make sure that our AP solution is just always, at the forefront of what's going on. Technology is changing; it's changing rapidly. There's the big name companies that are throwing at LLMs. Like every few weeks, there's a new model that they come out with that is just changing the way technology has been built before, run before, monitored before. And so that just means it's cheaper to build technology than it was before. It means there's potential for more competition. But the flip side is, we have access to those tools just like everyone else does. And so we want to ensure that the system is getting better. The system is getting more accurate. There's less manual touches and things like that. So um, it helps us and helps our customers at the end to stay with, um, at the forefront of technology. Number one. Number two, your question around restaurants and going beyond restaurants. We actually have and already are beyond restaurants. Um, you know, we do have hotel customers. We do have property management customers. We've got veterinary clinics. We've got dental offices, medical offices, car washes, massage places. It's really, when you look at what is special about Factura, is as much as we started in the restaurant space and really understand the restaurant space, those types of businesses, if you go back to the accounting structure, it's very similar for no matter which industry you're in. And so that's really where Factura can help, is because we understand the accounting and how AP functions with the accounting structure, we're able to help our customers, and that's why we were able to expand into the industries that I mentioned. They're all very similar. They might just sell something different, but they all have little nuances here and there, but they all are pretty much from an accounting perspective structured similarly.
That's great. Well, Bradley, this has been a genuinely eye opening conversation. Proof that the most transformative AI applications are often hiding in the most overlooked corners of business. So, if you're running a multi location operation and your AP process still lives in spreadsheets and email chains, Factura.ai is worth a very close look. And to everyone listening, if this episode gave you a new way of thinking about where AI can unlock real operational value, that's exactly why we make this show. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and share it with a colleague who needs to hear this. Leave us a review. It really does help more people find us. Once again, my name is Anne, your host, and I'll see you in the next episode of the AIP podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.